Hello everyone, I'm Rachel and I welcome you all to Executive Corner Expert Talks. Today I'm with Yuval Hertzog. Yuval is the co-founder of the Tide Foundation. Now this company is a startup with a revolutionary encryption protocol. Here at Kalkine we bring you industry leaders, successful business owners, market and equity advocates all under one roof to help you discover the insight of the stock market and help you understand how you can create multiple passive income streams. Hello Yuval, welcome to Kalkine.
Hello, how are you doing? It's great to be here. Thank you all, man.
Great to speak with you today. Now, first up, could I just ask you, what inspired you to launch the Tide Foundation and what are the strengths of the company?
Well, Tide was born out of a necessity, actually. And as we found out, not just our necessity. Before Tide, we were running a business that collected huge amount of sensitive consumer data. And we collected for the sole purposes of monetization. All above board and user full consent, but something didn't feel right because the insight that we processed taught us more about our users than they know about themselves. Now, this was before GDPR and CCPA, so we could easily get away clean with the standard T's and C's where we could harvest them at will. But we wanted the data to be handled like we want others to handle ours. No appropriate model existed, so we designed one. We approached it from a clean slate direction. If we had to reinvent cyber privacy, how would that work in a perfect world? If I shared my details with my bank, is it still mine? Should I have a say on what they do with it? Should I know they kept the word or for not giving it away? Or what will happen in the future when it's not just my social security number and address that being shared? What if it's giving the company control over my solar power inventors? Or safekeeping keys to my self-driving car, or my Airbnb apartment door lock, or worse, my DNA. All existing solutions today expect me to blindly trust that companies are doing right by me with my data. These companies in turn blindly trust their security vendors that fortify and protect their data behind layers and layers of complex defenses, where all it takes is one rogue privileged employee, one leaked administrator password, a tiny unchecked supply chain vulnerability to penetrate right through all these layers and go for months undetected. That blind trust is proving to be misplaced. So what if we design a solution that requires no trust? Tide was born when we were approached by other companies asking to license the radical concept that we came up with. That's when we realized we're on something really big. So that's when we pivoted.
Absolutely. Well, it's definitely a concern of many and a fascinating area to be involved in. So what are the opportunities introduced by Tide's approach to cybersecurity? And do you believe this could have global impacts?
Imagine if you, as a small business owner, had the assurance that you can withstand cybersecurity attacks of any scale. If you had the guarantee that even if you are breached, no information can be leaked. Imagine if your consumer had the same guarantee. Or imagine if you as a consumer this time could verify beyond doubt that your information is inaccessible without your explicit consent at any time. Imagine the global impact of being able to exchange information, services, and goods without the barriers of establishing trust first. Tide doesn't replace today's cybersecurity solution because Tide is not a product at all. Tide is a capability that can drive a new era in cybersecurity. But it's living inside of today's technology, very much like an electric car engine. It's not a replacement for a car, but powers the next generation of all motor vehicles. In this analogy, think of cars as any digital platform, like a health practice management, banking infrastructure, or an e-commerce system. All these technology platforms have had to separately design solutions to defend them from breaches, maintain privacy, and comply with regulation, typically using a constellation of different vendors, all ending in the hope that the design is sufficient, but hardly any ways for them to verify it's secure. Tide is an engine that is plugged into those digital platforms, removes that need for hope or blind trust, and replaces it with a verifiable guarantee that the most sensitive processes and data are indeed secure. The ability to verify by both the platform owner and the end user interacting with it introduces Tide's greatest opportunities for cybersecurity: ability to guarantee that processes work as intended because of mathematical principles that prevent them from working otherwise. There are two growing trends today in cybersecurity: security by design and zero trust, where in most cases, zero trust is considered to be the best practice for security by design. The problem is that to implement security by design, a lot of expertise is required, and ironically, all zero trust models today still require you to blindly trust in them. A simple way of describing Tide is that Tide helps platform developer to easily adhere to security by design with a true zero trust model.
So, Yuval, are you able to talk to me in more detail about Tide's zero trust authentication method?
Sure, the Tide authentication is an area we invented half of our time and IP to perfect, because we believe that security systems and data is pointless without securing the last mile where human beings interact with it. Sounds trivial, but it's so often overlooked. I can tell you all about the great benefits and perfect levels of security of second factor authentication, biometrics, or facial recognition, which Tide does very well. But with 94% of all people still preferring simple password authentication, we knew that we had to first find a way to boost the security there. And by removing reliance on trust in the process, we managed to take your password and increase the difficulty of compromising it, from picking a lock to breaking into a bank's vault. Instead of comparing a password you enter against a copy that you gave to be stored away with us or with anyone, as done by existing technology today, Tide uses a swarm of computers to challenge you to prove that you have the right password, but in a way that the password never leaves your computer. The challenge is different every time, and none of the computers have the details of the entire challenge, just random pieces of it. But they can all verify that you answered the challenge correctly. Once you have replied with the correct proof, you're authenticated. This functionality is made possible with the creation of a new mathematical process that allows multiple computers to jointly process data without having any access to the data or ability to compromise the process. We call it blind secret processing, the ability to process secret that no one can ever access, including us.
Now, even in the first 6 months of this year alone, there were many publicly reported data breaches. Why do you think this area is growing?
You would assume that the money hackers are making from ransomware is tremendous, and it is. Ransomware payouts have grown to $5.2 billion criminal industry. But that is infinitesimal if you consider that a single stolen identity is worth up to $2,000 on the dark web. It's trillions of dollars. And we haven't really begun seeing the aftermath of the massive identity theft wave yet. But as morbid as this may be, the really interesting question, however, is different. How come the record corporate investment of $254 billion in cybersecurity hasn't even slowed down that exponential growth in cyber tech? It's practically a proof that regardless how much you spend on cybersecurity, the breach is inevitable. This leads to only one logical conclusion, explaining why we see this explosion in attacks and why it's just going to get worse. The current cybersecurity paradigm just isn't working, and it makes perfect sense when considering why. The internet was never designed for security. It's global, decentralized, controlled by no one, and for all practical matters, completely anonymous, untraceable, unaccountable. Surprisingly, this isn't even a problem. Cybersecurity, on the other hand, is based more or less on standard physical principles. Build walls upon walls, put locks everywhere, and will only allow access to those that are authorized. But at the center of it, who's in control of it all? Who's the authority that dispenses authorization? It's always someone or something you need to put complete blind trust in. And this worked very well for so many systems for so many years, until it was connected to the internet. But once that changed, cybersecurity is proven lacking, simply because you couldn't verify that last step of trust. Hacker imposes on a system to phish privileged access credentials, or susceptible third parties were compromised, then exploited to access sensitive system. And critical trusted systems were compromised and inflicted mass supply chain damage, simply because there was nothing to check on them. The trust component, being the very core principle of security, has proven its created vulnerability. Only a new way of thinking can mitigate the unchecked growth in cybercrime.
And just finally there, Yuval, how can enterprises make use of Tide?
Tide plan is planned to be available in the market middle of next year. Enterprises will be able to benefit from it using platforms that embed Tide within, or by implementing Tide's open source SDK themselves. The consumption of Tide decentralized network services is a simple monthly subscription model, on par with similar low-cost dev tools pricing. We're already working with NTT, one of the biggest system integrators in the world, to build solutions for the high enterprise globally, as well as working with open source developer community to integrate Tide into the capabilities of many distros out there.
Well, thank you so much for your time there, Yuval. With that, I will sign off for today. But watch this space for more. Till then, stay apprised and invest wise with Kalkine.